Hello, my name is Matthew Bloom, and I'd like to talk to you just for a moment about something that we tried out at Scottsdale Community College this last fall, and that we are continuing to implement. It's a special new course format called Flex Express, which, in a sense, gives students the ability to take classes either online or in person, depending on what best suits their needs over the course of a semester. So it's not exactly as rigid as a traditional course or a hybrid course, even. And while all the content is offered online, it's also available. Students have the opportunity to show up in class if they want. So, just to give you a sense of where this all started, the backstory is that this comes out of years of experience dealing with, first of all, let's say instructors of online classes wondering what to do about their frustration when it comes to students who are frustrated themselves, who get into an online class. They think at the beginning of the semester that they're going to do just fine, but then a few weeks in, they realize after it's too late and they've committed that the online format just isn't working for them for some reason or another. I mean, because of their specific learning styles or whatever it may be. And then at the same time, we also had instructors of traditional courses who have students that at some point in the semester have some sort of a life situation that happens. Maybe their work schedule changes or whatever. There are all kinds of different things that can cause it to happen, but students sometimes just kind of disappear. And it's not because they're not capable of producing the content or succeeding in the course otherwise, but a lot of times it has to do with some sort of a life happening. And so these kind of general frustrations that instructors of both online and traditional courses were experiencing kind of prompted the idea that what if we could, rather than just a regular hybrid class, what if we were able to offer a flexible attendance course where all of the content is online. So if the student wants to just complete everything online, then they can just do it all from home. But if they do need or want the in-person face-to-face, they could always drop into class at any point in the semester and either begin attending regularly or just for a short period of time. So basically, what this has allowed, or what this has, in some cases, really helped with, is given those students, whether they're online students that need the extra face-to-face time, or they're traditional students who are experiencing some sort of a life issue or whatever it may be, schedule change. It's taken that frustration, and because it's created a more flexible atmosphere from the traditional kind of rigid structure of whatever course format you had, students were able to kind of take charge of their own learning, and they're better prepared to succeed because they have that flexibility. Now, of course, it's not perfect because at the same time, you give them more flexibility, you're giving them more responsibility. And that is something that we'll talk about here briefly. Now, when the instructors, myself and Albert Shank and Cirio Calagero here at Scottsdale Community College, decided that we would take this on, we were thinking about different ways of approaching the actual design of the course. Like, how would we design the course policies? And we all kind of took slightly different approaches, but for the most part, the main points are: number one, attendance is optional because the classroom is a flipped classroom. Students that come to class are still required to, view recorded lectures or look at, some sort of readings or content online beforehand. That way they come to class prepared to do the face-to-face interaction so that we can do the formative assessments and those kinds of things face-to-face. So it is a flipped classroom model, at least, and it does require all students to access the learning management system Canvas at some point. But as we kind of started to actually offer the classes and the semester progressed, we found that there were other benefits as well, specifically in terms of certain types of efficiencies. For example, students who need that face-to-face time get more of it. They are, because they can show up to class. There are fewer students in physical attendance because the ones who are more autonomous, the more self-starting, self-learning kind of engaged students are maybe completing the course material online, and they don't need as much of that face-to-face instructor student interaction. And so the students that do benefit from that get a lot more of it, so their learning experience is definitely intensified as a result of that. And not only that, but we also found, I mean, it says real estate here, we also found that it's better, it's easier to manage classrooms. You can use classroom size. If you have a classroom that you typically you can fit a number of students in, you have the opportunity with this to have students from different sections attending or not attending based on what they want that week. And then you also have, for example, with the language classes, the Spanish 101 and Italian 102, you had no longer the need for a language lab. So opening up this flexibility a little bit not only was good for the students metacognitively in that it got them thinking about their own learning and taking more responsibility over their learning, but it was also kind of opening the door to different kinds of efficiencies and cost effectiveness, on campus. Now, another thing that it kind of surprisingly revealed to us was that students have a completely different perception of their experience in the course when you give them this kind of open flexibility. Again, you are empowering the students by relinquishing some of your power as an instructor, and we'll see later that that's not, that some work should probably be done to improve that. But at the same time, we have to remember that students, just like anyone else, the experience that you're having in a given moment is sometimes somewhat flawed. We don't always have like our sensors aren't perfect, let's say. And so when we're experiencing a moment, we may not really see what's there. Like when we look in the mirror or when we're experiencing something, we may see it as being better or maybe worse than what it actually is. So I want to just discuss a couple of elements of the student perception, the result from this Flex Express with you. First of all, now this is a survey. These are results from a Survey Monkey that I sent out about three-quarters of the way through my semester last fall. And this is it was a low stakes thing. They just got a little bit of extra credit for doing it, and they didn't have to respond. But I did get some interesting responses. One of which is this first one here, which is, what would you suggest the instructor do to improve your experience? Well, the first thing, one of the first responses that I got was give online students the same amount of work that is given to in-class students. Now, what I think is interesting about that is that in-class students and online students in this Flex Express format are literally doing the exact same things. They're just doing it in slightly different ways. So students who do it online, however, have to do any kind of class discussion, any kind of little activity, practice exercise. All of that stuff has to be completed through Canvas. And it can be in one week up to like maybe 10 minor activities. They don't take a really long period of time to do, but a lot of different formative assessments and things like that. So the perception that some students had was that when they show up to class, they do less work, even though they're demonstrating their familiarity with, the exact same content that the students doing it online are. They're doing the same things. It's just the discussions are verbal in class, and they can't escape the discussions because there are fewer students that attend, and so it's a much more intimate atmosphere. So one thing had to do with this perception, with the amount of work that the students are doing. Another had to do with this idea of self-perception. So what do the students think about their own ability to learn, their own progress? And here we have, for example, what about the course is most appealing to you? And this student ironically left out the most important word in the sentence where the arrow is right there. But I like that you can do all the work online. Having this flexibility is extremely, I'm guessing, good, because I work on Monday, Wednesday nights. So obviously, appreciating the fact that there is that flexibility there. However, it does say I also like that we have online discussions even if you don't go to class. So, the student is thinking about how the flexibility is a benefit, but then also what that additional flexibility lends to the learning experience that they're having. The next thing on this same actual survey response that I would point out is the next answer here, which is what aspects are the most challenging. And this is not, the question is asking what aspects of the course are most challenging, but the student response really is more about what the student needs to work on. And so it is obliging the student to engage in that metacognitive reflection. Like, for example, this says, I find the essays to be the most challenging because I am not the strongest writer. I also find doing it online sometimes challenging because I tend to wait until the last minute. Now, those are very typical responses, but at the same time, it does demonstrate that giving students this additional flexibility and communicating that additional responsibility to them is forcing them to at least know that they're more responsible for their own learning and taking charge of that in some way or another. Now let's look at some data here about student success and retention. In this particular slide here, we see the results from the one section of Spanish 01 in the fall of 2014 and the one section of Italian 201. And you can see here that these are really pretty good. These are on par with any, in fact, a little bit better sometimes than any traditional, in-class or hybrid course would be. So these are really good success percentages here compared with traditional, or I should say across the district averages. And what we can see here is that it's kind of like students do what they think they need to do. In this Italian course, for example, there wasn't a whole lot of shifting from online to in-person. Students kind of just decided at the beginning of the semester what they thought would be best, and then they did it. And it was just a few people that usually showed up, and the other students just did it online, and it wasn't a big deal. In the Spanish course, we had a very interesting shifting going on where you had two to three students whose success in the course was directly linked to their ability to jump, to basically shift from online to in person when they found that the online wasn't working, or in person to online when there was a work issue that forced them to make that transition. So these are really good numbers here, and it really does show that there is the potential for quality here, and really kind of helping out the learning experience for the students. Now, English 101 was I actually taught four sections of English 101 in the Flex Express format, all at the same time. It was a Quality Matters certified course, so it is, it's been decided by a third party, that it's credible enough as a course to be online, and so that the quality learning is actually possible. I generally, find that English 101 is obviously a different kind of class than an elective language course, because you have pretty much every student has to take it, and nobody really wants to. But having said that, I found that my experience here was that. Go back here. My experience was that I had about 59% successful passing rate in the four concurrent sections of Flex Express English 101, which at first looks pretty terrible, because if you look at hybrid, in person, and online, I mean, it's basically on par with an average, like your regular online class. And so these are district averages, and these are not just English 101 averages either. So at first I was kind of concerned about that, but when I thought, well, let me compare it to myself. This is virtually the exact same course that I have been giving to English 101 online for the last 2 years. So what I did was I looked at, for example, last fall when I had a couple of sections of the course online, the exact same course, and I do see there to be a very significant, or at least relatively significant, 3% increase in student success. And I can tell you anecdotally that there are a number of students that I had that were able to succeed for the exact same reasons as you saw in Spanish 101, which is that the students at the last minute were able to kind of, not at the last minute necessarily, but sometimes halfway through the semester or a few weeks in, when they saw that their performance was shifting, and I kind of sent them an email or something along those lines, then they got the sense that it was a good idea for them to move one way or the other. And I also had some students that, because of work situations, or some people were moving and things like that, that they were able to, start taking the class online, complete the coursework like that without completely failing just because they weren't able to get to campus anymore. So it does have the potential, at least, to be a significant alternative to an online-only class, if not with some improvement, an alternative to a traditional course. And what we learned, though, was, of course, that you don't want to give your teenager the car keys and no curfew at the same time, because if you give them too much responsibility all at once that they're not prepared for, you might not see them for a few weeks, if at all. So there's this sense that you do still have to have that instructor intervention, and you do need to make sure that your students know that there are still requirements, that the course requirements are not optional. And but what this does is it forces students to take that additional responsibility, which, although that's not explicitly in any of the course competencies that you should learn how to take college courses or learn how to be responsible in college, that is still a skill that we are imparting onto our students. And so it is helpful to get them engaged in that early. So finally, the reason why I've created this video, we decided that this is something we want to share. So I encourage you to, contact me. My email's in the. You can leave a comment here if you want, or the email is also going to be in the comments section or the description of the video. And so I encourage you to contact me if you have any questions, and feel free to put this idea to the test. Thanks for your time.